Friends, welcome to my workplace at Ranaghat, West Bengal, India. This is a cataract with hazy cornea and small pupil. The haziness of the cornea is probably because after peribulbar block, the assistant applied an iPad when the eyelids were not completely closed. I have started the surgery, the main incision has been made, and two side boards are made on either side of the main incision about 3 clock hours away. And now an air bubble is injected into the anterior chamber, and trypan blue dye is applied over the anterior capsule. And now this is adrenaline to see if the pupil dilates because of adrenaline. But the pupil doesn't seem to budge. It is almost of the same size. And now as I wash the anterior chamber, and I find that the pupil is okay, about 5 millimeter. So I inject Visco, and this Visco will dilate the pupil little more. So this is about 5.5 millimeter pupil, and I should get an adequate sized rhexis with the size of the pupil. I am using a 26 gauge bent needle for raising a capsular tag. It is done, and now there's a small air bubble in the anterior chamber, and this air bubble is obscuring the view of the capsular tag. So you have to inject some more Visco and remove the air bubble. And now I take utrata forceps, hold this capsular tag, go anti-clockwise and do a rhexis. Just go along the border of the pupil so that I get a rhexis of about 5 millimeters. So this is okay. And now if this size of the pupil remains during surgery, there should not be any problem. But see what happens as I do hydrodissection, and as little bit of touch happens to the iris, the pupil comes down to about 4 millimeter and even 3.5 millimeter. So at this time I decide to use a pupil expansion device. And the pupil expansion device I have in my stock is BHEX pupil expander. BHEX is a hexagonal pupil expansion device invented by Dr. Suben Bhattacharya of Kolkata, India. We just need a forceps known as BHEX forceps, this forceps, to place it in the anterior chamber. We don't need any injector. And we just hold the middle tab and take the device completely into the anterior chamber, and at on go we tuck the leading flange under the iris. Now I go through the right side port and tuck the flange at on o'clock in this way, and then I go through the left side port and tuck this flange in this way. And now the pupil has taken hexagonal shape. Size of this pupil is about 5.5 millimeter, and this size will remain during surgery. It cannot constrict further. And now the cataract is not very soft in this case. The nuclear sclerosis is about grade 4, we are going to see how tough it is in a very short time. Some superficial cortical lens matter is removed, and now the nucleus is rotated nicely. The handpiece is turned now to make the bevel up, and now I'm going to divide this nucleus by my technique called submarine chop. The phaco tip goes through the substance of the nucleus under the surface, and here it is. Just divide the nucleus into two heminuclei. Each heminucleus is subdivided into smaller parts. Here I make the initial track little deeper and then divide the two heminuclei completely. Now the other heminucleus is again chopped. Now each nuclear fragment is now, you can see the brown tinge now. So this is not a very soft cataract. This is the epinucleus, and now this fragment is emulsified. And now the last fragment. At this time we must be extra cautious. We must see the stability of the anterior chamber, and we must decrease the parameters if required, like vacuum and flow rate. In this case it was not required. I could complete the case at high vacuum and high flow rate. At this time the cornea appears clear, probably because the cornea has been moistened well. In this case I'm using this 23G Simcoe to remove the cortex. So cortex from inferior aspect is being removed, and now I have to remove the cortex from the upper part. This is the cortex from 10 o'clock. Now I go through the right side port and remove the cortex from 1 o'clock or till 30 o'clock. So cortical cleanup is done, and now an intraocular lens is to be implanted in the capsular bag. The anterior chamber is filled up with Visco. And now the main wound is being enlarged a little bit. And this is the intraocular lens. This is a hydrophilic acrylic single piece monofocal intraocular lens from Appasamy Associates. This is NASPRO. And now we have to implant the lens in such a way that the trailing haptic doesn't press over the flange at 11 o'clock. The lens has gone into the capsular bag, and now the lens is dialed and it is nicely placed in the capsular bag. And we cannot clean a Visco now. We have to remove the BX ring first. Inject some more Visco. We have to untuck all the flanges that is under the iris to bring the BX in front of the iris that is in the anterior chamber. This is how we untuck all the flanges. Hold any portion of the BX ring and bring it out. So just we need a forceps, a BX forceps to use this device. We don't need any injector system. And now see the pupil. The pupil is small but round. There is no damage to the sphincter. This is the beauty of the device. If we use iris hooks, we tend to pull the iris too much, and in that way we damage the sphincter. But with iris hooks also, if we moderately pull the pupil, we may save the sphincter. And at this moment, Visco cleaning is being done. This is gone behind the IOL in the capsular bag, irrigating the capsular bag and removing Visco from the bag. And now I'm going to use this irrigating probe. I'm trying to go into the capsular bag first, because lot of Visco gets trapped in the capsular bag in small pupils. Unless we irrigate the capsular bag nicely, there will be a lot of retained Visco, and that will cause raised intraocular pressure. This is irrigation and aspiration being used together, and now we are towards the end of the surgery. See the pupil. This pupil is round and there is no damage to the sphincter. This is moxifloxacin. Now these side ports are closed, hydrating corneal stroma. Many doctors say this is hydrosuture, as if you are closing the side ports using suture, but you are not actually using suture, you are using hydro. So this is hydrosuture. And now this is the final lavage of the anterior chamber, and the anterior chamber is nicely formed, and the case is concluded. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope this video will help you in developing your surgical skills. Be a great surgeon and serve your patients with love, respect, compassion, and great surgical skills.